Hello guys, how is everything?
All great.
Amazing.
How are we today? How are we feeling?
A little bit cold, to be honest.
Are you?
Yes, I am a little bit cold. I don't know why when it's colder now.
Dude, it's been all sunny today, all sunny.
There's no sun in the place where I'm recording. Like, I get no sunlight.
Just for the record, Luis and I live in the same apartment and I receive sun all day and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay guys, so today we have a very special guest on the show. She was project manager and digital writer at Enemy, and she went into the streaming business at 11/7 Music Group as a streaming executive and label coordinator. Then she moved to Parlophone Records as a streaming lead and worked in amazing releases such as Everyday Life by Coldplay, Dance Monkey by Tones and I, Song Machine Volume Y by Gorillaz, and the Pink Panther's latest album, To Hell With It. If that wasn't enough, right now she's the head of streaming of the UK office at Q&A Venice, and I am pleased to say that I have the honor of working under her wing every day, and I cannot be more happy that she is here with us. People, this is Beth Cherry.
Round of applause.
Con todo, vamos.
Thank you so much. And I'm feeling you on the coldness today. I'm in London and it's cold every day. So a bit accustomed to it, but yeah. I'm doing good. How are you guys today?
We're doing
Amazing.
great. We're doing great, and we're so happy to have you today, Beth. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very, very much. Do you know what? I don't think people take a second to look back at, that saying that take a moment because you 10 years ago or 5 years ago will be so proud of where you are now. And I don't think people do that enough. So thanks for reading off my job history. It made me feel a little bit proud for a second. Thanks.
Absolutely. Something that we also we should stop and think about it, because it's nice also to reevaluate the steps that we have taken so far, and also helps us so we are not too hard on ourselves either.
I completely agree.
Okay, so just to kick off today's episode and to bring context to our audience right out of the bat, what do you do as a streaming head at Q&A?
Oh, that's a really, really great question. And to be honest, I think it's another reason that it's exciting for me even to look back at the kind of job history and like you say, like the journey, because when I started my career in the music industry, I always knew that I wanted to be in music. I loved music. I loved listening to albums kind of, as a bit of an event. I think my dad probably inspired that with long car journeys and things like that, and just putting a whole record on. So I knew it was definitely something that I wanted to be a part of, and I just didn't know how or where my place was. So yeah, I kind of started at NME, which is an amazing kind of iconic British magazine over here and across the world. And yeah, I loved it so much, but I think I kind of realized as the landscape was changing and even the way that I was consuming music. When I was young, I loved reading the NME and reading magazines and blogs, MySpace, everything like that to discover new music. And I realized while I was in my role, as much as I loved writing about it, it felt like we were writing after the fact. And I kind of wanted to be a part of that journey. And I think, I was streaming music. Obviously, I feel like if you love music, it's a part of your day every day. And I was kind of finding out that there was this space that had already kind of really shook up the industry, and it was starting to make moves in terms of connecting that kind of traditional way and the new digital way. And I thought that was really, really exciting. So when I got the opportunity to step into that role in a junior position, definitely, and growing into like an exec in the field, really that's just me developing with the times. So streaming as it is now is so different to where it was, but that kind of covers all streaming platforms where you can access, listen, sometimes download music, whether that's Spotify or YouTube, TikTok, Apple Music, I don't want to leave anyone out, Deezer, SoundCloud, all of them. Amazon, I don't know if I mentioned them. But yeah, I kind of, in my role, make sure that I'm up to date with the trends and at the kind of forefront of that landscape. Also helping artists really develop in that space. And it can be a really, you know, the music industry is a really hard place to get into. And although there are loads of, you know, barriers and hurdles in streaming, it's also become a really empowering way of finding audiences all around the world and being able to really make a career out of putting art out. So it's my job to help artists with that, either with artist development or whether that's specifically with the project. And the other side of that is working with all of those streaming platforms that I mentioned to make sure that artist music is out there, that we're connecting on new and exciting campaigns from established artists or new artists. And yeah, just really repping the scene and the artists that I work for. Long-winded way, but I feel like, yeah, that's it.
I think it's quite impressive how like streaming has basically changed in the music industry, like how we consume music, how artists get to their music distributed, and how like it can be used like as a tool to build a community. And it has been like a great experience to just seeing all these streaming platforms evolve and how they are now developing more stuff to help the artist and everything. Like it's basically like now everyone needs to be there and everyone wants to be like on certain projects within the streaming platforms. And I would love if you could break down the process for us about what happens a little bit behind the scenes, that of well, like what starts with an artist or the label approaching to you and saying like, okay, this is a new album, this is a new single, and then what happens until that song gets released, distributed, and gets like playlisted on an editorial playlist or even like on the cover of the main playlist around all the DSPs.
Yeah, I mean, that is quite a journey. And I think, to be honest, it's interesting we mentioned that how much these platforms have developed, because of course they've developed in their interface or like actual development of the apps. But the teams have also developed. I think people, you know, the industry has just adapted, and, you know, even within DSPs and streaming platforms, you'll have lots of different departments, whether that's editorial or artist marketing. And of course, with certain DSPs, there's kind of specific or unique things for them, whether that's podcasting or voice activation or radio teams. So I think it's kind of really interesting how those platforms have developed. And on a kind of artist facing side, the idea that every platform kind of has their own creators portal, or, you know, data that you can access and ways that you can control your content and your profile. That's kind of available on every platform now. So there's definitely been moves that have meant artists and teams are able to do a lot more independently without maybe the need for direct support certain big acts would get. You know, there's so much music, we have to be realistic, there's so much music being uploaded onto streaming platforms, and of course our music is the best. But, you know, I love finding ways that you can connect with other parts of DSP teams, and also utilizing that everything that they have developed, and also what, you know, certain distributors or labels or people that just love data, the kind of platforms that they're creating as well, for us to access and understand more and empower ourselves to make educated and informed decisions where we're putting our money sometimes, like ads and radio plays and things like that. So yeah, it's things have definitely changed, and I think that's really exciting. It kind of means that, you know, of course there's this traditional way or the way of putting out music, if we think about it really basically, of probably having an artist that is already has got a core fan base and has reached a point where, you know, they're able to put a single out, and then kind of a focus around a project, and they'll get the radio plays and press pickup, and you know, you've got your whatever, you know, that kind of whole package, which definitely does work. But I think the beauty of streaming and the space that we're in right now in the music industry is that there's just more freedom for artists. So sometimes, and it's really great when you're working with artists and they just have completely different ways of releasing music. Like you say, you know, what is the strategy when somebody comes to our team with a single or a project it really does vary. It could be, you know, I really want to put a visual EP out, and that's going to be, you know, because they're very highly creative, or, you know, there's or they want to do just a full-on mixtape. Let's just drop a mixtape or concurrent singles. I think it's, you know, it's a really, really exciting time. So there's definitely lots of different approaches to how you can release music. But I think if I'm talking about it from streaming kind of only, it's kind of separated into three main things. You've got your pre-release strategy, your release and post-release strategy, and then kind of what's next. I think, you know, there's definitely a checklist of things that I'm definitely get me excited when I'm thinking about a project. Streaming is just one part, so it's amazing to know what else is going on, what is the timeline, is there any in real life events, what's your digital spend or digital strategy. So there's lots of different things that go into it. But yeah, if you're thinking about your pre-release phase, there's and it's streaming only, there are just so many new things that you can do to get people excited about music that you're releasing, whether that's kind of releasing audio on TikTok. I've kind of seen these really cool approaches of people releasing a few unofficial audios on TikTok, and then kind of letting the fans and the data as well determine what that single is going to be, because then you know that people, if you put the work in and you have a great support team and around you, you'll be able to convert those people from TikTok over to whatever platform it is, you know, all streaming platforms, to make sure that they're following and pre-saving or pre-adding, subscribing to your YouTube, following you on Alexa, following you on Spotify. There are lots of different ways that you can start gaining traction and having a healthy and exciting profile. And I think, you know, that's really, really important. Being consistent with your with whatever it is you want to do, being authentic, all of that kind of wraps into one as well. And then I just think you need to have a team that's forward thinking and supports you in your vision, and is able to just keep things going. No, but it's amazing if you can have like one of these viral hits. The viral hits seem to be happening more and more regularly. But yeah, for me, I think artist development and like longevity and using a release strategy to help that at every point, so that post-release you're still feeling the benefits and the development and engagement way after the album or mixtape is out.
Absolutely. And I think this is a great way to like make our audience dimension that every release, it's a whole journey and a whole world of its own. But I guess that everything, like all releases have in common that a lot of people are included, as you mentioned, like from your team, from the other teams, from etc. So as a streaming executive, you should probably have a network, including DSP editors. So in your opinion, like which would be a great way to start growing this network?
Yeah, I think, I think the best way for you to kind of grow your network I guess this feeds into, you know, the first thing that you want to be doing when you're releasing music is kind of, honestly, like, I feel like it sounds really cliche, but being as like authentic as you can. And, you know, you've made your art and your content for a reason. And I just think however you want to put that out, people will come as long as you're consistent and you're authentic. And, you know, it just so happens that one of those people might be able to, you know, add you to a playlist that is, you know, got a massive following. But even then, once you have the playlist ad, you know, there always has to be a what's next. If the goal is just to have a playlist ad, then I don't know, that doesn't feel like that doesn't
like
feel
a
like
goal.
that doesn't feel like a goal that it has any longevity. I'm pretty high bar to set if that's kind of where we're going as soon as you release for every single single. But in terms of network, that's basically what your kind of fandom is. I would just like commit as well. There are so many kind of like groups and forums for independent artists, for all kind of different artists within the music industry, for managers, distributors, independent artists, lots of different organizations that want to help you and empower you. And I think finding those and kind of finding your tribe in a professional setting, and then also like within your fandom, is just how you're going to connect. And really that's what you want to do, connect, because once you start connecting, you have the power to create buzz and excitement through your platform, where you're going to start getting recognized, whether it's for the biggest playlist in the world or it's to just start that playlist journey. You know, sometimes I think people forget the power of the fans and third-party playlisting and metrics like following an artist and downloading an album or making a playlist with that track. There's just so many ways in which you can support artists that you love, that make real differences. And we know that everyone is kind of looking at data, but inside of that, you've also got different algorithms that aren't controlled by things like massive streams. You have things you know, with the kind of viral charts and that virality. You've got so many different platforms like social media, whether that's TikTok or Instagram, or find ways for people to cross platform, to create your own network. That's the way that people will really be able to jump in and invest and be a part of that. I mean, invest, quite an interesting word to use as we kind of head into a new place of Web3 and NFTs. And, you know, this is kind of changing artist life, independent artists' lives, and making that connection between the artist and the fan even that much closer. So yeah, there are definitely different networks that I would tap into. And then of course, you know, there's the other side of that, whether it's me as a streaming exec and networking with people like me. I mean, I'm not going to say how you can reach everyone, but I know that, you know, there are also official ways of starting those conversations as well. If you are an artist and you're working with a distributor, or you're uploading your music independently, or you're with a label, you should be able to claim your profile and have access to the kind of artist part of that, the artist portal of that. You know, that's kind of, I would say that's number one in terms of a network as an artist you want to be tuning into. I think connecting through the kind of official pitching that you can do through those, once you've claimed your profile and you've made yourself kind of known on the platforms, you'll get access to things like pitching portals, or you'll be able to go into that, you know, your network that you've created with different kind of groups I don't know what else they're called. But a good example of that is AIM in the UK. It's kind of the Association for Independent Music, and ask them for their access or how they're accessing these kind of teams properly. So there's kind of internal spreadsheets and submission forms and Google Docs for every platform, for different kind of artists, whether you're independent or signed or in between. I also think I know, we couldn't really go out and do anything in real life, but the ways in which artists connect with artists as well is really important. Going to gigs and investing in artists that are similar to you and are kind of at the same ground as you in development, all of those things. And then the best part of that is when you're able to get to a certain part in your journey where maybe you've been in a playlist a few times and you're starting to realize that maybe the editor of that or the team over there are really starting to understand you and understand your music. And it's the ways in which you can kind of thank them for that. Just kind of show ways that you're engaging with their support. There's loads of different networks that I think are valuable in terms of creating like key development in the streaming space, for sure.
That's amazing. And I love that we touched a little bit on that, like a playlist should not be a goal of a release, because I think it's a great misconception in general in the music industry, not only for artists. So I wanted to, like, if you could break us down a little bit of what are the most common misconceptions that you have seen in artists that they have about streaming or playlisting, and what do you think streaming and playlisting and everything on this domain can actually do to help an artist's career?
Yes, I mean, I think there is. It really is a journey, and like I say, I also don't think an artist necessarily needs to live solely in the streaming world. Like, you want to be able to have this cross platform and have this in real life and online. But I think really playlists are a great way of discovering music. Like, what playlists do you guys listen? Like, is that how you guys discover music? Do you think? Like, how are you using playlists?
For me, it's more of also playlisting for sure. Like, I follow the mainstream a lot because, like, to be updated to what's big artists are doing, and like also the algorithmic one. And I follow, like, for me, it's honestly a lot about playlisting, but yeah, I follow also like a lot of like niche playlists to see like what new artists are coming, what new sounds from different, also from very globally different. I think that's a huge one, like from Africa, from Latin America, wherever. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and in my case, like, because of my work, I focus a lot of like independent, non-editorial playlists, because I'm like really like close to emerging artists and like independent media, independent labels and everything. So I'm like always following them and checking them, and because I feel that they are sometimes the ones that are showcasing the next big star, for example. And when it comes to editorial playlist, I focus on mood playlist only, doing it like chill vibes, and not like a genre specific, but like, today's raining, why not listen to rainy playlist, for example? And I just play it and I chill.
I love that. And I think, to be honest, that is just a really amazing example of just the way in which playlisting is a tool for discovery, whether that's being driven by someone curating it or it's driven by you kind of curating it through data. It's really, really exciting. So I think if we kind of flip that, in terms of playlisting, it's a journey. It really is a journey. If you are able to get it into that big one, that doesn't mean the next one will. And also, it doesn't mean it will be in there forever. So there's always work to do, always. But I think my one bit of advice with playlisting is kind of making wins achievable. There's no point setting this kind of goal without any plan of how to get there. that's just not setting you up to succeed. And that's why I kind of love being in the role that I am, because I feel like I'm able to be there to kind of help and assist and support getting artists from there to there. So yeah, I would say make your wins really achievable. And I think using things like data is really exciting, because, you know, streaming really does mean you're being listened to around the world, which is just really mind-blowing when you think about it. So go with where it's resonating, and if that means local, then go local and look at the playlist. Do a bit of that researching yourself. What are the playlists of people of a similar genre to you or similar mood to you, and look in those playlists. Are those artists at the same level as you? You know, and then I think you start really narrowing down, really finesse, you know, where it is not only that you want to be, but that you should be in order to really, really develop and make a substantial difference with that addition. You don't want the additions to do all the work themselves either, because you want to develop and you want consistency. You want followers up. You want streams to start exceeding listeners, and you want kind of those organic streams to start superseding programmed as well, always. So I would say make those goals really, really achievable. Go local or wherever is resonating, and be really kind of succinct about the playlist that you want to be in, I guess.
And I love the fact that we're bringing playlist and data together right now. So I want to put them in both in the same question. So how does, in terms of data, how does a healthy artist profile looks like? So that the artist team or the artist do not rely too much on editorial support or third-party playlists. How does that profile look like in terms of data?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of a healthy profile, I really love that. And I think you'll actually be surprised about how many artists aren't kind of best supporting themselves by really, really but kind of basic things. And I just think going on to every single platform and making sure that it really represents who you are and the content that you're putting out, and it's connecting people to access other parts of you elsewhere, is the goal. I mean, a bit like playlisting, you know, those playlists that are curated, whether it's by, you know, this guy in his bedroom that just curates amazing drum and bass, playlisting is, you know, that these really lovely curated lists, whether they're done by somebody that is employed by a platform or it's somebody that just has an amazing taste in music, you're kind of visiting their stage at a festival, or you know, and it's a good way to look at it, because it is more than just pressing play. Sometimes we like to know the order, or we like to look at the playlist art, or we like to maybe go on their socials or a different platform to access additional content, or whatever it is. I just feel like as we do with playlists, and we visit these stages, whether as a listener or you're performing on the festival bill as an artist, it's all ways of being able to bring people back to you and invest in you as an artist. So a healthy profile is definitely one that looks great, and we've crossed the T's and dotted the I's, as we kind of say.
I love that expression.
That might seem really basic, but it's important. And then I would say in terms of healthy, I mean, we've mentioned some of them anyways in terms of data, but you know, there are certain key metrics that you can start looking at. I mean, number one is your followers. That's an amazing metric. And if you don't have access to like the followers on your platform, you've also got listeners, which is another amazing way, on monthly listeners. Being able to have steady growth on those kind of things is important. Of course, we love to have a graph that has a really amazing spike, but we definitely don't want the spike to dramatically go down. I think kind of steady growth is key in all areas. Making sure that organic streams and streams from library and third party playlisting, really, really, really important. Making sure that you're bringing people back to your platform, however you want to do that, but utilizing all of the tools that are specific to each platform, I would say, is really important. I hate to mention specifics, but Amazon Music have Alexa, so that's a kind of whole new space of voice activation that all of the DSPs are starting to jump into. But on the Amazon Music for Artists portal, you're actually able to use look at the kind of data of how many people are using Alexa to access your music. So there's loads of different ways that you can start creating healthy profiles that are very specific to the DSPs, making sure you've created playlists that sit on your profile, and you're uploading video content where video content can live. You're utilizing lots of different functions that you can use, but just use the tools that they give you because they're amazing.
Now that we started talking about data, I would love to see it from the perspective of a manager or a record label owner, or like a person behind the artist, like the music industry professional. I would like you to ask, like, how's your relationship with data? Like, if you check it every day, what would you recommend all these people that are working on the business to take care on data? Like, which pages to check, where to actually curate it and focus on the data that will benefit themselves and their artists?
Yes. I mean, I think there are like loads of different data points now. I can imagine it can be quite overwhelming. That's why it's great to have teams around you that are able to, that one, love data, and two, are able to dissect it so that it can be kind of a way to inform decisions rather than dictate them. But data is definitely something that comes into my role, and I'm sure is something that artists are looking at every single day. I think it's there is sort of loads of key metrics that I would say have started to become really, really exciting. And like I say, kind of with that Amazon Music and Alexa one, for example, it's amazing. It's an amazing way to kind of really bring I think sometimes the humanity back into it. I know they're just numbers, but I just think when you're putting your art out there, and maybe, it's someone just expressing themselves in a really small town in a bedroom with a broken mic, or, and you start seeing those numbers appearing and different territories and countries around the world resonating with something that you've put out. I just think for an artist, it's a great way to kind of feel like, this is connecting. And of course, there are loads of different ways that you can actually utilize the data that you've got in a kind of business strategy way, whether that's informing ads or kind of looking at, I love looking at the reaction of certain things. So if you have a radio play, or you've just done a kind of a big press interview and you're on the cover of a magazine that's just gone out, or you've got an amazing playlist ad, it's amazing to be able to look at data and see how these things are actually reacting on platform, and how that's affecting the way that, or the rate that people are consuming music. And I think there's as that is becoming more and more important and kind of valuable in terms of strategy, whether it's release strategy or artist strategy in general. I think there are loads of new points, new data points that become quite exciting, whether it's like looking at the virality and the speed of tracks and things like viral charts or local charts as well. I think that's so amazing because I would ask you to have a look at the the viral chart in your where you're from today and have a listen to some of those songs, and it's just it just feels like a great way to be informed, I think, about where the music industry is, especially as it gets very, very localized and we start to see emerging markets really coming to the forefront and bringing such incredible talent that is starting to move the needle in data as well. I'd also say that some data points that are interesting are even on the case of virality, and I've been lucky enough to work with a few artists that have had tracks that have done incredibly well, and some of them took a little bit longer than others, but it was amazing to see things like save rates and starting to see those organic streams and streams from library outweighing streams from playlisting. Like it really is quite exciting, and it sometimes it proves that even if you don't have the buy-in from the places or the people or the platforms that you think you need to in order to succeed, you can see that things are working with you just being true to who you are and sticking with your guns, really, about the kind of artist that you are. So there's lots of ways that you can use data, and I think it's just really interesting. And I really do shout out to a lot of the sort of data scientists and strategists that are just able to look at everything. And I'm just happy to try and make that as digestible as possible for artists. And even streaming platforms themselves, of course, they have access to data and incredible teams that are able to see things are kind of heating up and act on that. But it's amazing to be able to drill down into real specifics of, we put out this single and it went into this playlist, and in fact our playlist, more people are saving our song than others within a playlist. There's incredible amounts of data that you're able to access, and I think it's about having the right team and making sure that you can digest it, let it inform and educate, but never dictate.
And it's beautiful how you can start building stories around this data, bringing context around this data, not just to analyze the trend that is coming, but also like pinpoint some best practices that you already did. So you as an artist in the future, you can, this worked. Now, when it comes to the budget, I will, apply 70% of my budget to whatever worked in the past release. And I had 10, 30% for hypotheses and for some, whatever thing that I want to try out and might work and might won't. But I want to talk about translating this momentum that is happening outside the DSPs, more specifically, let's say TikTok, because it's playing a huge role in the industry. So, and bringing it back into the DSP. So for instance, for Ashnikko's Daisy, there was a Beats Daisy Challenge hashtag where fans were given the opportunity to be featured in the Ashnikko's final music video. So the hashtag went astronomical and it had 10 billion views on TikTok. And the release also had amazing support from the DSPs. So how is this process of sizing the opportunity happening outside? Well, in this case, TikTok, and bringing it back to the streaming platforms and bringing more push from their side to the release?
Yes, definitely. That's an amazing example. And I say that, one, because Ashnikko is queen of the world, but also because that artist journey was really, really interesting and kind of real testament to staying as authentic as you can and that was a case where we were able to really look at data and see that although, maybe we weren't getting playlist ads, Ash was making music and visuals and connecting with her fans elsewhere and bringing it back to, streaming consumption that I can see is increasing, to let us know that, it's working. And we're creating a really, really exciting connection with fans in this kind of stage before it became, having a Beats hashtag on TikTok. There really was a lot there, a lot to do before we kind of got to that. But yeah, and to be honest, a good example of that with Ashnikko as well is that we'd put out a song, an EP, and we were sure we knew what the single was going to be. And we kind of started creating a strategy around that included all aspects of a label. And we started noticing that there was sound on this app called TikTok that people were starting to create videos with. And TikTok was really new. This must have been 2019. And yeah, we couldn't quite believe it. And as these sort of celebrity posts started coming in of, big kind of TikTokers at the time, and, Miley Cyrus and lots of different celebs starting to connect with the song and create content and jump on this trend, it became very evident that maybe the single that we thought was going to be the single is not actually the single. And we were able to use what was happening on another platform, connect it on all the others, and from that be able to inform where we were next going to go with our strategy. And like you say, where we were able to put like funding and focus and things like that. So that's like a great example of being able to kind of use these other platforms or other ways of connecting and bringing it all back to the artist. Because in the end, from that, it became very much a fan thing. And Ashnikko's fans, me being one of them, are like really, really passionate and have been with her through this like journey to stardom and all kind of global success. It's been really, really exciting. And really that will kind of be the foundation, like that foundation that was made during that time and through using these viral moments to create like tangible artist success and development. They've become like the foundations of where she's at now. But in terms of, that campaign in general, it's amazing how you can start using all of your platforms to kind of, it's this idea that, when we go back to the idea of network and healthy artist profiles, creating like a network for yourself or this fan hub for yourself is the kind of best way, so that you've always got your best foot forward. You don't want to have virality and not be ready. And of course you won't be ready, but you're in a place where you're able to use this to your best advantage and help it inform how you're going to get to that next step of success.
What I love about like seeing all these great momentums and artists like using them is that we have seen these kind of phenomena of songs, albums becoming super viral along the years, among time. And like we sometimes, I feel like kind of miss the point that music is still like the core, the fuel of the music industry itself, before like the media, like huge media outlets were like promoting and saying what's going to be viral. Now we have like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Tomorrow we're going to have like, I don't know, like metaverse, like something real crazy, but still like music is still going to be there. Like songwriters, artists are still going to be producing great songs and making people like kind of feel empathic with them and building these communities. And this is why, for example, like recently, like a couple of weeks ago, I read an article about the CEO of a huge record label like earning more money with like compared to all songwriters combined in the UK. And sometimes that kind of feels like, okay, why is this happening? We can see like literally the kind of unbalance that we are witnessing in the music industry. And because of this, like there are being some like different companies promoting or like starting to apply different models, like user-centric models. And I wanted to ask you if you think like this can kind of change the balance that we're seeing now, or not really?
Yeah, I think there's change in the air, and it's really, really exciting. I think that the idea of having an artist-centered business model when we're talking about the music industry, which is literally built off of the art of artists, is the only way that feels right and feels like you're just supporting the artist as best that you can. I think there's a long way to go before there's complete kind of equality and transparency in all aspects of the music industry. And I'm, even talking about as a, streaming executive, I'm very, very aware of the kind of how rubbish royalties are, if we're saying it sort of plainly. So yeah, I would say that we've got a long way to go, but you can kind of see with the rise of independent artists and distributors, sort of artist services, NFTs, like everything is kind of with the artist at the very, very focus, and it should be, and it should feel like that. And I think just, education, empowering artists, having empathy, and having excitement is what we should be bringing as people within the music industry to support artists. It's been a really, really, tough time for the music industry in terms of artists not being able to tour, and it's hit a lot of people really, really hard, and others it hasn't, because of kind of this disparity. But I think the real kind of change in the way that artists are able to connect with their fans, there's just so many less barriers. Like even with something like TikTok, the way that you can just, the same with all social medias, I guess, it's just you and a potential fan. And that just feels like the most important connection possible. And
it's interesting because there are many artists that are starting to step closer to this, only the distribution of the music. Like one of the biggest example right now is Kanye West with the STEM. We can be speaking about emerging artists that are using, for instance, Patreon as a way to connect directly and monetize directly from these stands that they have, right? So I was reading an article very recently from Billboard, and they were asking the question if streaming music, the services are due for an upgrade in terms of how the users are interacting with the music. So how do you see streaming services evolving around the user music interaction in a world that we are speaking about visual, social, immersion, Web3, metaverse?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting to see. And I'm so excited to kind of be a part of it, especially on kind of the independent or kind of artist-centered side as well. I wonder, it's so exciting because every time I read something in Music Week, my mind is just blown a little bit, whether it's someone buying real estate in the metaverse so that they can do gigs and concerts, or as you say, Kanye actually selling out of STEM players after he just asked his fans and told his fans that's the way that he's going to be creating music. Even, really exciting things like Taylor Swift deciding to re-record some of her all her
and all her fans supporting that. Yeah,
exactly. It really is just amazing, and I love it when you see kind of big established artists really fighting for their right, because I do think that, you know, we kind of started this conversation about how exciting it is being in the streaming space, and how you know, there is a traditional way and there's also this new and exciting way. And I just think that all the platforms should be really excited about that, about how limitless and global and empowering this is for the artists. And if everybody is as excited about that as I know we are, like me and my colleagues and my friends in the industry is, then it's going to be definitely really exciting. I think seeing different platforms starting to have their own like niches as well, I think is really exciting. I love all of the different things that each platform has to offer. For example, I love podcasts that are on Spotify. I really do. I think it's brilliant, and I loved when they started updating things like Canvas, like for Canvas to kind of become a thing. And yeah, I just think there are so many different ways that we're starting to see development when it's kind of needed from the artist community. Yeah, I loved, what else do I love that I've seen recently? I love those the way people are using TikTok as developing artists or big artists to do like duet challenges. And then I think that Youngblood actually released one of those duets with his fans on streaming platforms. Like, that's so cool. What a great way to even start empowering your fans. And I just think the more agile and flexible we all are, the better, for sure.
Absolutely. And to me, at least, the future might even look sometimes a little bit scary, especially in the music industry, because I think we are like we are known for being super like innovative, and no one knows what's gonna happen. But for now, at least, and as Jorge mentioned, you have like worked in huge projects with Coldplay, Gorillaz, Stereophonics, and I wanted to ask you, like, at least for now, which have been, you think, the most quote unquote profitable actions you have made or decisions you have taken to make these huge campaigns work and go along with DSPs to make this difference in the release?
Yeah. I'd like to say that for me, every artist, and actually sometimes people would say this meant that my plate was always very full, but every artist that I worked with was just a complete joy, and I had so much fun like connecting with the artists and their teams to really understand a project and how I could be helpful and how I could support. And there are loads of different examples. Probably one for every single artist campaign that I've worked on, I would say. I think some like notable projects, obviously when you start working with big bands like Coldplay, it gets very, very exciting. They really wanted to, when we released Everyday Life, I was lucky enough to work on their most latest kind of number one record as well, the first number one in the US and their biggest streaming album to date, Music of the Spheres, which came out October last year. But their album before that, Everyday Life, was really interesting because it wasn't like the Coldplay that we kind of knew in terms of these big pop anthems. They kind of really took it down, and it was a really personal album and a record that all of the members put a lot of heart and creativity and skill into. And we really wanted to understand the kind of themes and the ways that we could support that. And it was my job to understand that and basically be able to, with my experience, be able to understand what activations or what ways we could partner with each DSP to really not only enhance the record itself and the artistry of the band, but that fans were really going to connect with and love. So we did a few amazing things on Everyday Life. One of them was that we did a live stream. So the record was like two sides, kind of sunrise and sunset. And we partnered with YouTube and we did a live stream from Jordan, which is mad. And it was like live, and it was from like as the sun was rising, and then we performed the other half as the sun was setting, and fans were able all over the world to be able to just kind of be a part of that across the day, and make release day feel like a real global moment for all the fans. And there's also artists like there's an incredible kind of iconic rapper called Kano over here in the UK. He's actually in Top Boy. I don't know if you guys watched that on Netflix, but he's Sully, I believe. If I've got that wrong, I'm going to be in so much trouble. Yeah, I'm sure he's Sully. And he's just absolutely phenomenal and takes such care and precision with the records that he makes and the story that he's trying to tell. And he's an absolutely incredible artist. And I really wanted to be able, the record that we released was called Hoodies All Summer. It was released in 2019, and it was a really, really special record that was released at a sort of crucial time culturally. And we wanted to be able to just amplify the message and the importance of also like a record as a whole. It's sometimes it's hard to find a rapper that looks at a record from top to bottom so cohesively, or any musician nowadays, not even rappers, just musicians in general. But he loves the kind of concept of an album, and it was really my job to be able to connect with all of our different platforms to be able to find the best way of being able to tell the story there. And we were lucky enough to be asked to do Spotify singles with Kano. But as you'll know, the format is kind of an original song reworked and a cover. And Kano just would not do a cover. It wasn't his thing. He didn't want to do it. Like, the record was he was serious. It was a full body of work, and anything that was going to be put out, we wanted it to be cohesive to the project in the moment. So that was just never going to happen. So for the kind of first time ever, Spotify decided that Kano could rework one of his kind of classic tracks. And then we performed one of the new singles from the record, and we had an amazing creative. We were in Abbey Road Studios. It was really, really amazing. The kind of instrumentation and the amount of people that went into creating that project just tells of kind of the importance and the theme and the feel of that record in itself. So yeah, there's been a few examples if we're thinking big, and then with some of the kind of developing artists that I've worked with, Pink Pantheress, what an exciting year that was. Pink is just the most authentic and talented artists that I can think of at the moment, and being able to kind of listen to the record and understand that this is, you know, almost a new era of releasing music was just so empowering to see, and a real education for me about the power of an artist being authentic, and the fact that they, you know, they know best. Keep them at the center of everything you do, because where else would you have a debut mixtape from one of the most exciting artists in the year that is no longer than 22 minutes? It's, you know, it's really that was a really exciting project to work with. And yeah, I was lucky enough to kind of pitch Pink Pantheress for the Spotify Radar activation campaign, and she got it, so no surprise. But yeah, I think again that was a really important way for us to be able to connect Pink Pantheress with a DSP in a really meaningful way to her. It wasn't, you know, all of lots of interviews and TikToks and this and that. It was so authentic to her, her complete journey. So yeah, there's loads of different case studies, I guess. I don't know why I just called them that. But yeah, it's taught me a lot, and I'm just so excited every time that a new artist or team has something that they want to play, because you just never know where that's going to take you.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing, Beth. We are now starting to land to the last question of the interview, and I'll have the pleasure to make it. So we wanted to ask you, what are the new sounds that are starting to pop out that you could recommend our audience to give a listen? Sounds or playlists?
I love this question. I think, I mean, I also need to ask the question back, because anytime Jorge sends me anything, I have to listen to it or until I can't listen anymore. So I need to have a recommendation from everyone. But I think at the moment there's actually a few artists that Venice Music, which is who I'm lucky enough to work with and for. We have a few projects coming out and a few artists that we're working with that are very exciting. And I'm so excited for us to really, we've had such an amazing year, and I've been able to work with a lot of artists in different genres of music that have just been amazing to immerse myself in. But I would say at the moment, you know, it's very cold and it's very dreary at the moment. So I love to be able to go into the kind of Africa hub on any kind of like streaming platform, and, you know, being able to hear, I mean, even being able to hear like the chart in Lagos, like that's a vibe. That's even that, you know, but being able to listen to playlists, like really specific ones, like there's one called Dirty December, which is honestly, it keeps me thriving. But there's also another playlist called exclamation mark. That's on Spotify, and it is so good. I like kind of love TikTok a lot, especially in terms of discovering music, whether that's catalog from someone really random, or it's like this brand new exciting artist who's just released a single. That's an amazing playlist on Spotify to stay completely down with the kids. You will be the coolest gal and the cool person in the room. It's a really good playlist. What about you guys?
Who starts, guys? Come on.
Okay, in my case, I think I've talked about this with Max and Jorge already, but there is like a new kind of genre that's appearing in Mexico. It's a mix between regional music, like la banda, which, I mean, like, it's really like the evolution of mariachi, you know, but with banda and regional music and urban hip hop. So it's a nice experiment, and I love the sound. it's not for everyone. I mean, like these two guys are like, yeah, I don't know, but like in Mexico,
These
like
two
going
guys.
massive. It's going massive.
That's so cool.
Corridos tumbados. And then like in terms of playlist, I'm really into like chill R&B in Latin, you know, like well from Latin America, like Madera y Miel, which is a playlist that I really follow, which is just like mellow vibes R&B with rap, some jazz, hip hop also. There's a band that I love called the Guadalupes.
Nice.
Mexican. They are just like a mix between Mexican folk jazz and hip hop with some nice melodies in the background, like R&B singing. And their show is great. They're gonna perform in Vive Latino. So if you're in Mexico, go to Vive Latino and support the Guadalupes. Shout out to Sammy, who is the drummer, a good friend of mine. Yeah, those are like my recommendations.
I also vibe a lot with the African sounds. I think it's super interesting, and I think I'm really waiting to see how they will influence our music, like way more. Also, the sound of Japanese music, I like it a lot. Like in general, like Japanese, China, trying to like listen more, and like I think it's gonna come something really interesting about that, because the way they approach music is way different than Western, and that gives a completely different result on the records that come out from that culture. So I think it's amazing. And if you want to go more niche, I was trying this whole time to search the Instagram of a guy that like I found through Groover actually, that he's a pianist. I will link the Instagram, I promise, in the episode link. But if you are in the mood of like listening to a great pianist that composes his own music, this guy is like amazing. I am a huge fan of him. He's like this very underground. He has like whatever 1,000 listeners on Spotify, maybe less or something like that on those lines. But he's absolutely a genius. So those are my recommendations.
For me, and this goes back to the first question you asked us about how we discover music. So I want to add something else, because on Spotify, they are not playlists created by Spotify, but it's something related to them. It's like their algorithm or something like that, which are called the needle. So there are the needle for the UK, for Colombia, and there is the needle emerging Colombia as well. So you can see like which are the sounds, not necessarily that are local sounds, but what's like the people listening to.
I love that.
So I love going into that. Like most of the time you will find things that you probably won't vibe with. But when you do find something, it's like, okay, and you start digging in, and there's that like the whole rabbit hole. And in terms of playlists, I also like love everything that is coming from Africa. So I have a couple of playlists that are very cool. So if like one of the smallest one that I follow is Party Day, which is very cool. Like, we will drop all those links on the description. Or Traffic Jams Niger. That's also super cool.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yes, and I was like, as Luis was saying, also like for this kind of R&B Latin vibe, there is a playlist called Nocturno. Very cool. Late Night Jiggy has been featured there as well.
I think I shared that one with you.
I think you did once. Yes. And there is another one that is called Nightcap, but that's more for catalog songs that are like way older. And one of the artists that I want to plug is Santa Marta. I love those guys. I will keep plugging them. So the singer is Venezuelan. He's lived in Colombia and he came to Spain, and he met two producers that are from Andalusia, and they're just making bobs. It's just beautiful. The music they have, like the guy can do salsa. The guy like this has like this salsa vibe, also like this bolero vibe, but sometimes he also raps, and his lyrics, for at least for me, they're like amazing. They're like perfect.
They are nominated right now to the Independent Awards of Spain.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Amazing.
In Spain, so shout out to them.
Shout out to them.
Actually, if you want people, you can all vote. Go to premiosmin.com and you can vote for your favorite artist in Spain, independent, all of them. So
there you are. There you are.
I also love the like playlists or hubs of that are like quite particular, as we're kind of saying, to these territories or local places, or even getting really specific, whether it's like LGBTQ artists that are making music, and then getting like specific into local like the locality of that. Or there's a series called Equal on Spotify, which is like, you know, very much female artists, and Equal Africa, big shout out if you want to listen to a playlist that makes you feel like the one, that's it for me as well.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, you guys have amazing playlist recommendations right now that you have to go through. You have nothing to complain. Great recommendations. So, Beth, thank you so much. I don't know if there is something else you want to plug or any extra message that you want to share with our audience. The channel is yours.
I just think the more we are connecting with each other and putting out our art and listening to music, whatever we can do to make the world feel a little bit brighter, I'm down for. So thank you guys for making this podcast, because it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining.
You already told us it's your mom's birthday today.
And shout out to my mom. My mom.
Plus is for you, Beth, as well. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, si ya llegaste hasta acá, muchas gracias por escucharnos. No te olvides de seguirnos en Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora o la plataforma digital que sea de tu preferencia. Si te gustó el capítulo, si te gusta el podcast, no olvides recomendarnos a tu grupo de amigos, colegas. Es la mejor manera y la manera más orgánica de que sigamos creciendo esta comunidad. También nos puedes encontrar en Instagram, Facebook, YouTube como 8000 kilómetros podcast, y cualquier comentario, duda, sugerencia para mejorar el podcast es más que bienvenida. Nos vemos en el siguiente episodio.